racism or hate speech or targeting certain people, because who could be against that, right? But at the end of the day, that's just the way they introduce it. And so Tony Blair wanted to implement laws that made it illegal to deny the Holocaust. Now, I find Holocaust deniers repugnant. There's plenty of history for the Holocaust. Their lies, their distortions, they are very readily received by people today, particularly with the rise of anti-Semitism all over social media. But anyone who does their homework knows the Holocaust really did happen. I mean, go to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., or just get online and watch the black and white videos of General Bradley, General Patton, General Eisenhower walking through the death camp and the piles of bodies. Watch the videos of the locals dressed in their fine attire and the ladies in their furs, the men in their suits, who were forced by government military officials to walk through those camps. And basically said, you telling me you didn't know this was going on? You're telling me you did not know this was going on? Oh, there's plenty of information out there that it did happen. So yes, Holocaust deniers are a special demonic breed. And they're out in full force today with the rise of anti-Semitism. But am I interested in laws that prosecute people for free speech? No, even when I find it disgusting. Because that's a double-edged sword. And I think little Tony Blair knew that. He knew we're going to implement hate speech laws like those who deny the Holocaust, and everybody will, with a reasonable mind, will agree with that. And then they would flip the narrative. Now, if you say anything against Islam, you say anything against any protected class, now you're going to be prosecuted. This is how they were going to get the camel's nose under the tent, if you will. In that book in 2016, I quoted some Jewish leaders and rabbis who said, look, we hate Holocaust deniers, but we're not interested in laws that prosecute them because we know pretty soon those same laws will be used to prosecute us for proclaiming our worldview. In that book, The Coming Religious Reich, which came out in 2016, 500 some odd pages. And by the way, you don't have to buy it. If you're a member of our vault at worldviewtube.com/vault, you automatically get it. Not only as a PDF, but I actually read it as an audiobook. It's available at worldviewtube.com/vault. So you don't even have to buy it. But in that book, I said, look, folks, we're going toward a global Reich system. The Bible tells us that. We're headed toward a neo-Nazism. There's going to be a resurgence of neo-Nazism. And I laid out all the things that the Nazis stood for. Of course, corporate fascism being one of them. Big government merging with big business. Attacking Christians, attacking Jews, social justice. Don't forget, the Nazi Party, the Third Reich, was the National Socialist Workers' Party. An embracing of Islam. I document in my movie, in my documentary, Sabotage, the strong connection between the Nazis and Muslim Brotherhood, the Grand Mufti of Palestine, who actually, and I have black and white pictures in the documentary, which again, you don't have to buy the documentary, folks. It's available for you to watch free of charge at worldviewtube.com/vault. I have black and white photos of the Grand Mufti of Palestine walking around the death camps while they're being constructed and going over the blueprints. In fact, I also include testimony from the Nuremberg trials that the Grand Mufti of Palestine, Muslim Brotherhood leader, was one of the main architects of the final solution, the murder of Jews, as well as Christians, many of which were defending the Jews. Think the hiding place, Corrie ten Boom's family. Look at that. A relationship big time by the Nazis and the Islamists. And I warned we were headed that way and that Europe was going to help lead the way. And we would end up with a Eurocentric world government very much resembling the Nazi ideology. Now, I know we have some wonderful people listening in the UK. Robert is a regular listener. He emails me. He calls in at times. I feel for those kind of people. They see it because they email me all kinds of information. But Europe, folks, lest we get on our moral high horse, is not very far ahead of the United States. We are headed toward a new Nazism. And to do this in its full capacity, they must limit free speech. And that's exactly what's happening in Europe. As the Islamists are taking over, and you cannot allow people to tell the truth about Islam. The globalists, as I told this radio and TV audience years ago, the globalists, I described it as this, the globalists are using the Marxists and the Islamists as their junkyard dogs to destroy Western culture and then to build it back better. Why build back better? You must destroy any remaining remnants of the Christian world view. And after you have destroyed that, you build back better. And that's exactly what's going on in Europe. And we would have been full speed ahead down that train track if Donald Trump had not interrupted the cause. And now he's flowing foreign students into the U.S. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, put out a cable communication. All these embassies and consulates stop processing these student visas of foreigners coming into the U.S. We're going to vet them. We're even going to go over their social media. Somebody in this administration understands that the goal has been to infiltrate us and take us down from within with foreign students who many of them I think will become, as we've already seen, potential terrorists. Now, there's a little bit of a disconnect because some folks in the administration are letting some former Islam or some Islamists who have gone to jail for 20 years end up on different committees that should not be there. So there's clearly a battle going on in the Trump administration between those who really understand what's happening and some others that apparently are not being vetted. That kind of thing goes on in every administration, right? Throughout every presidency. But America, we were going right down that road, and we can go right down it again with a new president. But I want to make it very clear. What we're looking at here, folks, is exactly what my book was about. It is the rise of a new Nazism. Joining me now is Peter McIlvaine, Hearts of Oak. He is out of the UK. Peter, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Brannon, always good to be with you.
I'm the congressman that represents Kilmar.
I'm sorry, I lost that last part. What was
good to be with you?
Bled over my ear. What was that last part? Oh, good to be with you as well. Thank you so much. What do you make of my opening monologue?
100%. I'm also concerned of the the openings that we've seen in the administration on very concerning individuals who've been let in, but that happens in every administration. I think by and large, the appointments have been very good. But it's up to the media, the alternative media, what you're doing, Brannon, to actually keep pressure and engage and highlight any appointments that actually don't fit with America first. That's what it all boils down to. So, and I agree with your concerns of Europe. I agree with, if President Trump didn't get in, then it would all been over in terms of free speech, not only for the US, but for the world. And that's why the world is looking, Europe, the UK, and wider are looking to the US, to this administration, to begin to push back those restrictions on free speech. And that is happening. Even in the UK, there was a headline, let me just mention a headline that was 2 days ago, and the headline was about the administration linking free speech with originally with a trade deal, but the title was Trump reignites free speech row with Starmer, Keir Starmer, two-tier Keir, sadly the British Prime Minister. As US said, is monitoring Lucy Connolly case, and she was a lady who was jailed for 31 months for a tweet, a silly tweet, jailed for over 2.5 years. As says, feud with Labour leader escalates as US President's State Department examines 31-month jail sentence of wife of an ex-Conservative councillor sentenced for a tweet on the day of the Southport murders, which happened at the end of the summer last year. So thank God for President Trump and for how he is highlighting injustices elsewhere. And I do hope that that applies pressure on the UK government and they realise they just cannot lock up. We're having 30 people a day being locked up in the UK because of posts online.
Hold right there. The computer's going to take it away, so I want to come right back. Pick it up right there. Don't go away. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Is the government tracking you? Do they have access to all your data? Well, if you go to worldviewtalk.com, you'll find out about a cell phone company that, well, does not store your data. They don't do that. This is what they're known for. They don't store your data. You have privacy. You're not being tracked. That's why a lot of folks are turning to worldviewtalk.com. You'll find their prices are very competitive. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com. Again, worldviewtalk.com. Oh, while you're there, not only do they have cell phones that aren't tracking you, you can find out about how to get a satellite phone. Should the whole system go down and you want to communicate with a family member or a loved one, you might want to have a satellite phone. Or how about their solar generators? They have great solar generators. Check them all out right now. Worldviewtalk.com. Worldviewtalk.com. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, website worldviewradio.com. Hey, don't forget, 22nd annual Ozarks Worldview Weekend coming up October 3rd and 4th. It's a Friday night and a Saturday. Friday night and a Saturday. We'll have with us Hadia, former Muslim, worked in the government, tracking terrorists, became a Christian. Powerful testimony. She'll be with us. Dr. Andy Woods, Gordon Chang, Sidney Powell, Alex Newman, Mark Mitchell, Rasmussen, Chris Martinson, Dr. Lana. 22nd annual Ozarks. No, it's not Ozarks. It was the Ozarks. But it is our 22nd annual national conference this year in the Mid-South, about a half hour outside of Memphis. Very nice community. Collierville, Germantown, Tennessee. Full details are at worldviewstore.com. We only have seating for 350 people. Worldviewstore.com. We give you all the hotels and everything to stay at. Now, joining me is Peter McIlvaney with Hearts of Oak. Peter, before the break, you said, did you say 30 people a day are being arrested over free speech issues?
Yes, we had 1,000 arrested by the end of last summer. because of anger at mass immigration. And now the police have ruled out these new systems where they're tracking social media. This all fits under the online safety bill, which is an overarching control of the internet and brings speech online under the control of government regulators. And previously that was not the case. Europe has exactly the same, the Digital Services Act. So that has been ruled out. And this means that we have police, around 30 arrests a day, the police going and arresting people for posts online. This is despite, in the UK, if you look at some crimes like sexual crimes, 98.5% of rape allegations never end up in a prosecution, 1.5%. Surely that is what the police should be focusing on, those sexual crimes, and getting justice and putting individuals behind bars who commit that act. But the problem is they're going after people who are making Facebook or X posts, saying maybe silly things. And like this lady, she had 9,000 followers on X, small account, and because of a post that she deleted more or less immediately, she's in jail for 31 months. And it's silence in the House of Commons. We have, I don't think really any, maybe there have been 2 MPs who have spoken up about a concern of a new class of political prisoner that we have here in the UK. And the concern is that could also be used across Europe, as we have seen courts clamp down on different political parties across Europe because the establishment fears the power of the people and the rise of populism. So that is where we are in restricting free speech. We've had Meta, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. We've had Telegram. We have had Wikipedia. We've had Signal. They have all expressed concerns of this legislation in the UK and Europe, and they've said they may have to pull out of the UK and Europe and stop operating. Last month, we saw 2 social media organizations. We saw Gab, social media platform, and BitChute, which is a video platform. Both of them restricted access to UK users because they said that actually they could not allow free content on their platforms because the government would come after them and they would be liable to prosecution. So huge clampdown in the last really 18 months in the UK and across Europe. So we'll look to this administration in the US to apply pressure on European governments to allow us to speak freely.
Well, of course, that again, if it wasn't for President Trump, we would be headed right down that road. And of course, we can be down that road again very quickly. Back to the UK. We mentioned this yesterday. Jewish protester charged for mocking Hezbollah. Made a little placard of, Nasrallah, Hassan Nasrallah, beep, beep, beep. It's the grim beepers. And now the guy has been arrested. So he was asked, do you believe that your image would offend pro-Hezbollah and anti-Israel activists? So this is how crazy your government has become. How have you kept yourself from being arrested? You're online right now. You're broadcasting. How have they not come after you?
But by the grace of God, Brannon, that's what holds all of us and keeps us up. That many people have been arrested. Tommy Robinson just got released from 200 days solitary confinement. They go after many speakers of freedom because they fear the spotlight that free media brings. So you, as a Christian, as you believe, Brannon, 100% that we do what we do. We believe that we are called to do what we do because God has opened the doors. He has made a way. We're certainly not perfect. We're all flawed individuals, but he opens those doors and he gives us what we need to accomplish that task. So we have very few broadcasters in the UK. Actually, we don't really have any broadcasters who speak from a Christian ethos, which is another dividing line between the UK and the US. We at Hearts of Oak always try and have different Christian leaders on to talk about issues from a Christian point of view. We always try and have regularly someone to come on to talk about the position of Israel and where that fits in the geopolitical side, but also in the biblical story. We are very rare for that. We have probably every 3 to 4 months, we have a pro-life speaker coming on to discuss the pro-life agenda in the UK. No one else has that at all. And then we, along with maybe only a handful of others, are willing to engage on Islam. And the report you brought up there about we're not allowed to offend Hamas, Hezbollah, we're not allowed to offend Muslim groups. Today, and I don't know the result yet, I've been trying to find out, hasn't been put out, but there was an individual who was in court, a refugee into the UK who set fire to a Quran, and he was arrested and he has been in court today. The whole issue of blasphemy laws in the UK, are you allowed to offend Islam? Of course, you can offend Christianity morning to night, every hour of the day. But Islam seems to have a special place, a special protected status, not only in the UK, but across Europe. And that will get wider and wider. And it is because we as Christians, criticism, we take that, we accept that, and if someone wants to criticize Christ or the Bible, they're completely free to do so, and we pray for their salvation. We don't threaten violence against them. But of course, in Islam, whenever Islam is threatened with words that they do not like, the response is often violent and aggressive. So that shows the difference. That situation we're in the UK, and a lot of the UK are in fear of confronting, engaging, discussing Islam. And next week, I'll be at a great conference with probably around 250 individuals with some phenomenal speakers engaging on Islam, some of the latest resources, some of the latest research that actually takes apart the narrative of Islam's history and gives people the courage and boldness to understand what they believe, why they believe it, and to be able to confront Islam. That is something we are seeing less and less as people become more and more fearful. And my concern is that will spread across the water unless you have an understanding of the freedoms you have in the US. They are God-given freedoms, and the clash that Islam brings to that cannot be allowed to happen. And we, in the US, we are not having an open conversation about what that means and what freedoms mean when you've got an ideology that seeks to extinguish any other thought systems. How will that work in the US as Islam grows and grows? Islam is not just a problem maybe up in Michigan, but as you saw in the Epic City and outside Dallas, there are moves afoot for Islam to spread in the US, and Sharia law will come behind that. So what's happening in the UK is always a warning to you, Brannon, in the US, to hold your ground, stand firm, and to continue to speak truth.
Are you, if not fearful, are you concerned? Are you ready? Are you anticipating a knock on the door for you based on even being on this broadcast, saying the things you say? Are you shocked you haven't had a knock on the door? Do you expect a knock at the door? Do you think every day when you get up, today might be the day they knock on my door, want to arrest me?
I don't think you really think of that, Brian. You focus on what you have in front of you, and you don't think of the ifs and buts and this and that. You just continue what you're doing, and we stand for truth. And that is irrelevant to the political climate. It is irrelevant to the legal climate. It is irrelevant to what happens in our society. What our position doesn't change in how we perceive what is right and how we speak that. And the waves and the storm may change around us, but we have to continue the course that we have set and continue doing what we think. So, yeah, it's not something I think about, because if you thought about those things, I guess it would concern you and worry you, actually you spend your time focused on what you're doing instead of thinking about what may be the case if something happens.
What's happened to the churches? What's happened to the churches in the UK? Are there churches that still speak the gospel? Do they speak the truth about that there's only one way? John 14:6, I'm the way, the truth, the life. No one comes unto the Father except through me. Where are the churches in Europe? What are they like?
Well, we have seen absolute truth being under severe attack. And we no longer have Christians in leadership positions in politics. We no longer have really many Christians head of the Church of England. So we have a state church. There are some very good churches. The church I go to is a very, very large black majority Pentecostal church. And it is often churches that are full of people maybe from another country or first or second generation. And it seems as though the UK spent many decades evangelizing the world, sent missionaries all across the world to bring the good news of Christ. And we are now in a situation where we need to have that come back. And those seeds that have been planted all around the world hundreds of years ago, that they are now coming back and bearing fruit in terms of speaking freedoms in the UK. So it is exciting to see the growth of those Nigerian churches and Ghanaian churches and Ethiopian fellowships and Sierra Leonean churches and across the board. And many Polish churches. The Catholic Church is strong in the UK because of many Polish believers being in the UK. So we are actually looking abroad, and I think reaping that missionary work that was done previous generations. Those individuals are now sending, in effect, missionaries to the UK, and that could be through the education system, students coming to study and being involved in their local church and not understanding this restriction of speech because they can speak freely in their own country. So that is what is happening in the UK, where the white English liberal church is on its knees. But we see an immigrant church, if you can call it that, that is coming over and adding fire and enthusiasm and passion to the church. So it's a case of two stories. Part of the church is actually on life support. Part is alive and growing and flourishing.
1-800-347-9829. Your thoughts, your comments, your questions, folks. Why are we doing this show? Because it is a bellwether of where we're going as a nation. We got a little reprieve, folks. Got a little reprieve. This is where it's going. And we just saw in Seattle, Christians, they gather together, opposing transgender surgeries, transgender surgeries on children, this kind of agenda. They got attacked by Antifa, according to reports. Who'd the mayor blame? The Christians. It's already here. Phone line's open, 1-800-347-9829. We're not changing courses. Now, we are who we are. We're committed to the truth that we are committed to. Worldview Tube is a broadcast network that I started in 2006, but it's based on my 35 years as an author and speaker and commentator. Worldview Tube is here to defend the truth of a Christian worldview. And we believe we can apply it to all areas of life, like law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, major issues.
At worldviewtube.com, we provide news from around the globe that isn't typically covered by mainstream media. Visit worldviewtube.com to watch our experts and analysts discuss all your favorite topics on our 24/7 live stream. Explore our extensive collection of unfiltered and uncensored content from 35 years of production. Go to worldviewtube.com today. Also find us on all of these major platforms and download our Worldview Tube mobile app.
All right, welcome back. 1-800-347-9829. Peter only had a 30-minute slot with us due to another interview, so I want to thank Peter for being with us. And Hearts of Oak. We also carry his show on the weekends at Worldview Tube. Heartsofoak.org is his website. You can also follow him, Hearts of Oak UK. Hearts of Oak UK on social media. Okay? 1-800-347-9829. 1-800-347-9829. Folks, I want your thoughts on what you see happening in the UK, what you see happening in America, particularly in the red states. And what are we doing with this gift that we've been given for this period of time, this reprieve under the Trump administration? It's not a perfect administration. None of us are perfect. All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. If you or I became president, none of us would have a perfect administration. There'd be stuff going on in the administration that when we found out about it, wouldn't agree. We'd be like, how is that happening? That's not what I'm for. The presidency is so big. It really is, to one degree now, almost too big for one person. The framers never anticipated a federal government this size. They never did. So it's not a perfect administration. But for whatever reason, God has sovereignly granted us this reprieve. I don't know. Maybe God is in some ways using Donald Trump to lay the foundation for Bible prophecy to be fulfilled. Whether we're talking the Abraham Accords or other things. We don't know. That's the thing often about God's providence. You don't know what God's doing until you look back. And then when we look back, we're like, wait a minute. Now I see his story, history, his story. Now I see what God was doing. Why God allowed that. Now I understand why God allowed Donald Trump to become president for a second term. And what foundations and platforms are being laid for the fulfillment of Bible prophecy. But what do you think the church is doing with this time? If we were in a Harris administration, I tell you, I'm not sure that we'd be able to stay on the air saying the things we are. I think we would be in a situation where we would be expecting the knock on the door or the letter. I think Christian radio would be under attack like we've never seen. So we've been given a reprieve. What are we doing with it? What is your family doing with it? What is your church doing with it? Is your church preparing for what could come after this administration? Is your family preparing for what could come after this administration? Is your family even preparing for what could come during this administration? Because it seems to me the global elite want World War III. And I keep saying that, but they clearly do. We had Trevor Loudon on the other day on Brennan House Live. He says he has seen videos of Muslims in America that are saying, we may not be here at the end of the year. So they're saying about themselves. Trevor's sending me the videos. Is there some kind of big terrorist attack in the wind? He says some of them are saying, we may not be here at the end of the year. What are they planning? Are they planning something? What is your family planning for? You know, I'm praying for the Lord to take the church home. But I also know we could be here another 10, 20 years. How are you preparing your children and your grandchildren? Are you preparing your children and grandchildren for what we're seeing in Europe? Are you saying to them, look, right now in Europe, that was sending missionaries all over the world. Now, if you speak truth about Islam, the exclusivity of Christ, you could be arrested. You post something very benign on social media, you could be arrested. Are you prepared for that to come to America? Are you prepared to lose it all? I said to some of my family a few years ago, I would not be shocked if eventually we lose everything. I wouldn't be shocked. In fact, we should anticipate it because that's the real history of Christianity. Why do you think Jesus said, he who wants to be my disciple must pick up his cross and follow me? Die to self. Be willing to hate your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, even your own life. Now, that's not Jesus saying hate. The real word there is love me more. Love me in a way and a manner that is beyond what you could ever imagine that you have for your mother, your father, your sister, brother, your wife, even your own life. You love me beyond measure compared to anyone else. It would look like hate. But you have to be willing to lose it all. That's the history of Christianity. America has been so abundantly blessed, almost on a daily basis. I look at my life and what the Lord has allowed us to do. That's the key word, allowed. And I think about Christians in China in the underground church. I think about Christians in Muslim nations. And I think, I was born in a country where I have this kind of freedom, although it's under attack. I look around and I think about all the blessings that we have, all that God has entrusted to us, allowed us to have. Even having this network and our relationship with VCY America, and all, I look around and I think, this is beyond what I could ever have imagined. Why is God allowing this? Why has he granted this to us? And are we prepared to see it all go away? Because it could. You know, some people who, like myself, who are pre-tribulation, we get accused of believing in escapism, that we're just all going to escape. No, I'm not. I pray the rapture happens today. I pray that I get to avoid all that of what's happening in China and Islamic nations. But we have no guarantee. We have absolutely no guarantee that you and I and you listening today, here particularly those of you in America, as Christians, will not lose everything. We should expect it. Because that, again, that's the history of Christianity. That's what Jesus told us we should expect. America is not the norm. America has been an exceptional nation in the liberties and freedoms that we have had and enjoyed. That's not the history of Christianity. And maybe that's part of the problem in America. We have an American Christianity versus a biblical Christianity. Let's go to the phone lines. 1-800-347-9829. Jason, line 1 in Minnesota. Hi, Jason.
Hi, in regards to Islam, you know, in recent weeks and even months and years as I've listened to you, you occasionally have played snippets of so-called sermons from imams and mosques. And these sermons, you listen to them, and it's nothing, it's the same thing as the Nuremberg war rallies. It's a war cry. Just listen to what these imams are saying in their mosques, and they're inciting the people to fight literally. So that's just my comment. So thank you, and keep up the good work.
You're 100% right, Jason. Thank you, Jason. You're 100% right. Which really brings up another point. We should not be surprised if the Lord doesn't return that most of us lose everything as Christians. But you should also not be shocked if you lose your life. Now, we know that in the tribulation, Christians, what they call then tribulation saints, are losing their lives left and right. They're being hunted. Particularly also Jews, and Jews that have come to Yeshua or Messiah, and those who deny the beast and his system and his image and his mark. There's nothing that says that can't happen here, now, in the next few years in America, and then ramp up in its intensity. And maybe it's because I have a big mouth. Maybe it's because I've been given a platform. So I've attracted fire over the years. A gunman coming into our conference in Saudi Arabia, it's from Saudi Arabia into our conference in Sioux Falls. Antifa targeting, along with Muslim Brotherhood and others, our conferences in several cities in 2018. The threats we received via email, some of them X-rated. Maybe it's all of that has caused me to be aware of something, and I'm very aware of this. Maybe you're not in this position, but you may be soon. You may not have a radio show or TV show or be known for things on a national level. But what if you're known just on a local level? What if you're just known locally as a Christian? So your sphere of influence doesn't go much beyond your community. But that's enough, folks, to get you killed. If you are known as a Christian in Minneapolis, St. Paul, let me ask you this. Is your life at risk? Because you're a known vocal Christian? How many Christians are their lives at risk in their communities, or will be in the coming days and years or months if the Lord doesn't return, simply because of their reputation of being very vocal Christians? What I'm saying to you is, you don't have to have a radio show or TV show to have your life be at risk. Whether it's at risk from someone in another state because your voice goes that far, or it's somebody in another neighborhood in your town. How many Christians have to worry about their life physically? Sadly, not many, because most people are undercover Christians. But here's what I'm telling you. If this trend continues, many of us will be murdered. And I'm not exaggerating. I've told my wife and family many times, if the government doesn't have me killed, if they don't try to arrest us and prosecute us, the other likelihood is we'll be killed by our enemies. That's not a defeatism. That's not being doom and gloom. That's just a reality. That's the reality of Christianity historically. So again, not only are we at a position where in the coming years, if the Lord doesn't return, we could lose everything. Many of us are going to lose our lives. And this is part of even the rapture occurring. It could absolutely happen. Could the rapture occur today? Yep. But could it be 10 years off? Absolutely. And in that 10 years, could we lose everything, including our life? Absolutely. I don't understand why these people accuse of escapism. I'll be shocked if I get out of here with the rapture. We'll go to your calls when we come back. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Hey, consider going to mypillow.com right now and get your pet a pet bed, just like my beloved Delta has right here in my office. Not only can you get pet beds, but you can get sheets, towels, blankets, and so much more. Slippers, sandals, robes, beach towels. It just goes on and on. But please go to mypillow.com and be sure to use the promo code B66. When you do, not only will you receive savings, but a generous percentage of each purchase comes back to continue supporting this 24/7 free broadcast outlet. We need your support. Hey, look, we're entrepreneurs, just like my friend Mike Lindell. We all need your support, and you're getting quality products at the same time. So please go to mypillow.com and use the promo code B66. Mike always has amazing specials going right there at MyPillow. So check out whatever those specials might be today. You never know. Mike's always changing it up and making new offers right there at mypillow.com. But be sure to use the promo code B66. All right, let's go back to the phone lines. Ron in Pennsylvania, line 2. Go ahead, Ron. Thanks for calling in.
Oh, hey, can you hear me?
Hi, Ron. Yep.
Hey, Ron. Hey, guys. Yeah. No, I heard an earlier caller talking about Europe, but first I want to say, look, we have a beautiful religion in Christianity. It's a direct line. It's absolutely something to be celebrated. And I do think Islam does have weaknesses, in its religion, but I don't think it's for us to sort of judge, right? I mean, Jesus is very simple, and in terms of what we are to do in following Jesus, and it's quite a simple and beautiful, difficult message to live out in terms of forgiveness and kindness and not judging, but simple. And so I do want to think that, we want to reduce the rhetoric in terms of harm to others. I don't want people thinking that they need to go out and attack someone, right, who might be Islam just for being Muslim, right? We have a right to defend ourselves, but we don't want to go out and actively attack anyone. I think that would be wrong in following Jesus. And then
I would
secondly,
agree. No, I would agree. I would absolutely agree with that. But let me ask you this, Ron.
Okay.
Do you think, though, that it is wrong? Do you think it is wrong to evangelize the Muslim and tell them that Allah is not God, that this is not the way to salvation? Do you think that's wrong?
I would love, that's such a difficult, I would love to be able to do that. I would say, you know what I would say? I'd say there were no eyewitnesses. What you say, if you want to really get to the heart of it, there were no eyewitnesses when Muhammad was there. And he couldn't write. That's what they're so proud of with Muhammad. He couldn't write. So, we have eyewitnesses, right? So that is but it's such a difficult conversation. But if you start it there and you realize that all the text of the Quran was brought together by someone else 1,000 years later or 800 years later, you're like, well, what really is the Quran? I mean, those are some of the conversations that, yes, if someone's willing to have it and listen to you, but they're going to get angry, so it's hard. It's like, I wish God gave me the grace and the ability to speak, that truth. But that's, I'd rather them come to that
but you're not opposed
realization
to
on their
offending
own.
people, though, right? But are you opposed to offending people with the truth? Are you opposed to offending people with the truth?
I want a dialogue. I just want to be like, having people talk these out so people can hear. I just don't want people to be angry. I just hate all the killing, man. I hate this guy who went down to the Jewish, in D.C. and shot, Jews on that museum. Having learned about all these different things online and social media, and he goes and shoots two Jewish newlyweds. They were going to be married. We have got to reduce. And that's why the European stuff, I know it's a reduction in freedoms of speech, but if it reduces the chaos and the killing where we can,
but here's the problem,
not
and I
allow
agree
people
with that,
to say
Ron.
whatever they want, we got to figure a way to reduce the killing.
But I agree with the reducing the killing. The problem, though, is Islam is killing. And Islam, as you say, is going to a point where now these guys are being radicalized, if you want to say that, brainwashed, indoctrinated.
Yeah.
This is happening in our mosques. And this is happening in our mosques where it was illegal at one time in this country to bring in a system that's whole goal was the overthrow of our government. And now we have made it illegal to maintain our republic by speaking truth, and we've made it legal to overthrow our government. Now we see good being called evil, evil being called good. Everything has been flipped on its head. I agree we don't want to attack anyone physically. We want to lower the rhetoric. We want to be very careful how we present truth. But we're living in a day and time now where things that used to be common sense is now considered offensive, like being intolerant. People say, well, that's intolerant. Being intolerant of child molestation, that used to be a high, noble thing, right? That was. But now today, if you're opposed to the chemical castration, sex changes of children, you're intolerant. Well, of course I'm intolerant of that. But you see what I'm saying? The new virtue now is tolerance, not truth. So I agree with you. Ron, great call. I spent a little more time with you than normal because that was a great call. Let's go to Christine in Wisconsin, line 4. Go ahead, Christine.
I'm going to be honest with you, Brandon. That man, the ignorance terrifies me. That kind of ignorance, what you were just doing. Sir, my history is I'm half Greek, half German. My family was murdered during the Armenian genocide. The history of Nazi Germany, who was working with the Nazis, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. This is Islam. This is Islam. I must be one of these weirdos who actually cares about people. I witness to, at my workplace, I work with many Muslims. I give them Usama Dakdak's tracts. Do you think that makes me popular? But they know I care, and they talk to me.
Well, and I appreciate you're doing that.
The gospel is an offense, my friend. You know that. The gospel is an offense.
Absolutely. It absolutely is. But I'll tell you, Christina, and I agree with everything you're saying, but a reason I'm patient and gentle with someone like Ron is because A, I'm glad he called into the show, number one. Number two, Ron, it seems like he's doing a lot of homework on Islam. He understands the truth about Muhammad. He couldn't write. This is really put together by other people. So it sounds like he's done some homework. He's on a good trajectory. Yes, I squirm a little bit when I hear him talking about certain things, but I don't know where Ron's at. So if Ron is coming our direction, and it sounds like, like I said, he's done some homework, then I want, and maybe he's a new listener, right? I want Ron and other people like Ron out there to keep coming our direction, keep listening, and then maybe they'll eventually be where we are at. I don't know where Ron is at. But like you, I squirm a little bit with some of those phrases, but I also, when I heard somebody, I thought, okay, well, this guy's not just throwing out political correctness. He does have some understanding about Islam and the Quran and Muhammad. So one of the things I'm overwhelmed by, Christine, to be honest with you, is the number of new people listening to our programs. And I'm trying to gently bring those people along. Bring them along. So pray for guys like Ron and gals like Ron as we try to bring them along. Because I thought we had a very civil conversation there, and we could disagree, but I'm telling you, a year or two from now, you'll be shocked at where some of these people are. All right? I wanted to get to Alice, but we ran out of time from Arkansas. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Did we lose her? All right. I guess we did. All right, folks, stay tuned for Crosstalk with Jim Schneider coming up at the top of the hour. And do me a favor. Pray for all the new people that are listening to the program. Because again, a lot of them, they are hearing stuff for the first time. They are growing. You guys, you would be amazed at the number of new people listening to this broadcast. Our figures recently have blown us away. All right, take care. All right, welcome back. Glad you're still with us. WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida. And of course, right? He doesn't want to do harm to anyone. Physically, he doesn't want to see anyone brought harm to them. I agree with that. He also was distressed, grieving over the murder of those Jewish folks. So there's a lot in his conversation I agree with. There are some things, as I said, made me squirm. But you know what? I don't know where Ron is at in his growth. I'm just happy he's listening to the show, calling in, engaging, saying some things that are true. How many people like Ron do you have in your life? Right? And something's happening, folks. I told my family yesterday, or maybe it was over the Memorial Day weekend. What was meant for evil, COVID, has been used for good. Do you realize the growth, the explosion in our audience since 2020 because of COVID? So many people that would never listen to this broadcast are now listening. Many people that opposed us now support us. So many eyes were open because they saw what was happening with COVID and the controls and the lying. Remember, we were told that you're not supposed to say that COVID came from China, a conspiracy. Then we were told it's crazy talk to talk about spike proteins. Then we told it was crazy talk to talk about people shedding the shot on you. Shedding. Just go down the list of things, all the things we were told were crazy talk that now people realize is real. People have had their eyes open. People that were some of the biggest supporters of the Democrat Party won't have anything to do with them anymore. What was meant for evil has been used for good. Our audience has exploded. And what we have to realize, and I think be careful of, is to make sure that we're making room for those people that are still coming our direction. And that's why I try to be gracious. I could have gotten argumentative with Ron. I could have gotten aggressive with Ron. And you know what? That makes for great radio. But that isn't what we're after here. We're not after putting on a show. What I want to do is be winsome. I want to be someone that Ron feels comfortable calling back in and continuing to talk and to listen. And that's the way we need to be with our family members that are out there, our neighbors, people you work with. Bring them along. I'm not saying compromise. I'm not saying don't challenge in a nice way what they're saying. Like I said, hey, Ron, are you saying we should never offend people? Are you saying we should not tell them that Muhammad is not, Allah is not the way? So it's okay to push back, ask questions, but always think about how can I leave the door open for them to come back for more? Isn't that what Paul did on Mars Hill? And he got the 3 responses we're going to always get, generally. I don't want to hear anymore. That was one response. Some heard and believed right there, right then. And then the third group said, I'd like to hear more of this. Can we continue this conversation? Is Ron in that third camp? Agreeing, but wanting to keep the conversation going? You know, at the end of the day, we do want to try to sell these people rope. Sell them rope so they figuratively hang the straw men that they keep stacking up in front of us. Right? You know what the Bible says? Destroying ideas lifted up against the principles of the Lord. Not destroying individuals, but the ideas. We want to buy time. We want to sell them rope and let them hang the straw men that they keep erecting. And that means that when someone calls in like Ron, you let them talk. And then you start going from squirming, thinking, oh boy, this guy's a politically correct leftist, to, wait a minute, he knows a little bit too much about Islam. That's true what he just said about Islam. Whoa, he has a heart for these 2 Jewish folks that were killed. All right, let's be gentle with someone like Ron and bring them along. Keep it going, right? Buying time, selling rope. All right, thanks for listening. Take care.